mass extinctions. Welcome, guys, to Ranking with Dinosaurs, where today we're not going to be ranking dinosaurs at all. We're going to be ranking mass extinctions. So, mass extinctions, by definition, are those incredibly terrible events that occur on Earth that are so devastating that they marked a period where life was in danger. How much danger? Well, they were almost wiped out. Now, there are levels to how wiped out that they were going to be. So today we're going to be ranking them and how terrible they were, how iconic they were, and basically how terrible mass extinctions are. And by the end, I think we're going to be more enlightened than ever. At least that is what I think so, but I'm just here to yap about insane events that happened in the Earth's history and how it affected each our organisms, or the biology, the environment, everything. Late Ordovician-Silurian extinction. So, going to be starting with the furthest one from us, or more like the first mass extinction that the Earth's ever suffered from. And it's all the way back 445 million years ago. This is the late Ordovician, and it wiped out 85% of species. Now, that is a lot. And it's actually known to be the second worst mass extinction the Earth has ever suffered. And what happened, there were like two stages. It's called two pulses. Now, the first one was a glaciation. No, it did not. It wasn't getting glazed. No, glaciation. So, ice caps were forming all around the world. The world was cooling. It was getting really cold. It affected all organisms. Mostly around this time, there were only like marine life. And obviously, when the world gets cold, water gets cold, and that's a no-no for organisms. However, actually, the organisms did have time to develop and adapt to this new cold, and it's called the Hernatian. Wait, I have it here. Hernatian era, or period, or age, I want to say. Hernatian age. And that's where the second pulse comes from, because after that, the ice caps again recede. So the glaciation goes back, and the planet just gets really hot again. Now, what ended up happening because of that is that there was a huge amount of anoxia and euxenia. Euxenia and anoxia, yes. So anoxia is basically the lack of oxygen in the water. So there was basically no oxygen to keep some animals alive, most organisms alive. And anoxia is basically making it more toxic. So these guys weren't only getting choked out, but they were getting choked out with like poison. So it was a no-go. Most animals were getting actually eviscerated because of this. And that's brachiopods, bryozans, graptolites, trilobites, and conodonts as well. We're getting low-diffed by this insane mass extinction. The thing is, on land, because there was not a lot of life on land, it was mostly the sea that was very affected. Probably on land too, but there was almost nothing in there. So, late Ordovician, I know it's the second most destroyed one, most deadly one, but I think we can start with a beat here. I think that's really good. I think that's fair for it. I mean, trilobites were dying, but we're not crying for trilobites. Sorry, trilobites. Late Devonian mass extinction. So we're going a little bit further in time. We're into the late Devonian. So this one took out 75% of species, I want to say. I think 75%. Yeah, if I'm not wrong. So again, there's two main events in the Devonian that caused this mass extinctions. So it starts with the Kelwesser. These were named after people, so you know there's gonna be some weird ass names from very old people here. Kelwesser event, which basically destroyed the oceans, were like decimated. Coral reefs were those were gone. And the living seabed animals, so animals that were mostly on the seabed, were also getting destroyed. And one of the main lineages of fish were jawless fish. They didn't have any jaws. They were mostly on the seabed again. They were gone, getting actually low-diffed by this insane event. Kelwesser. Brachiopods and I want to say trilobites too. Trilobites are real troopers. They were surviving those mass extinctions. They were the troopers of the Paleozoic. And after this, there's another main event, which is the Hangenberg event, and this basically what did the Devonian in. This was like Devonian. You run your fair share of time. You got your time to shine. You're done. A mainstay of the Devonian is, as you all know, the insane-looking fish Dunkleostis and all the placoderm, armored placoderm fish. Yes, they were wiped out by this. I don't know if to be sad, because, those were freaking cool-ass animals, or glad, because they weren't alive today, so... I don't know if they would have survived any other of the mass extinctions, but, they got taken out here. Also, ammonoids... almost taken out too. They survived, but just a small bit of lineages were actually going through this and actually survived it. So, there's these two main events on the late Devonian, this mass extinction. There were actually multiple of small events that caused this main two. So the cause is varies a lot. There's different theories. There's volcanism, global cooling, weathering principally because the Devonian was a time where planes were going crazy on land. There was so much vegetation back then. Not like plants like today. It's a different type of plants, but they were going crazy because, today or in the Cenozoic and the Mesozoic and part of the Paleozoic after Devonian, there were huge herbivores that would eat these plants. Back then, there was none. So what happened is these plants were all of this plant material was breaking down and going to the ocean. It was actually too much for the ocean. So the actual anoxia, again, the lack of oxygen, and euxenia, which is the levels of toxicity, were going so high is because there was an overabundance of plants in this period. So the ocean was like, bro, there's too many veggies. So those were the main cause. Also, a supernova problem as well out of nowhere. A supernova was causing mass extinctions here. It was crazy times in the Devonian. So Devonian, it's gonna be. A supernova is actually kind of cool. And it took out the placoderm, so I'm gonna put it in A tier. The late Permian mass extinction, or also known as the Great Dying. So if you haven't heard of it, the Great Dying is called the Great Dying because a lot of things died. No, I'm kidding. It's the worst mass extinction the Earth has ever suffered. So, what happens when you lose 81% of all marine life and 70% of all life on terrestrial life? You get a lot of dying. Yes. So, the Great Dying is infamous because it almost wiped out life on Earth, altogether. This is one of those mass extinctions where insects, of all things, almost get wiped out too. How terrible a mass extinction has to be for insects to be wiped out? Insects survive everything. Nuclear war, they survive. And, these guys were And this mass extinction was like, hold my beer, let me take you out. Trilobites were taken out. These were trilobites bid farewell from our Earth, and really sad we didn't get to see trilobites, but they thrived for a long periods of time. So basically, this happened. What happened? So you see these Siberian traps, and you guessed it, Siberia. Yes. So this it was like a flood of basalt volcanic eruptions. So there was a bunch of just chemicals just spilling out of the earth, and what basically made it was like this huge global warming phenomenon that was insanely toxic. Why? Because there was sulfur dioxide, which sounds horrible. Carbon dioxide, which sounds even more horrible. So what happened is, again, we discussed it, oxenia and anoxia are like main ingredients for mass extinctions. And yeah, no oxygen in the oceans. We get acidified oceans, which are like destroys life on the oceans, honestly. So yeah, temperatures were soaring up high. A lot of animals were dying so terribly that even for life to thrive again, like for vertebrates on land, it took like 30 million years for it to come back into a normal state. That's how insane the last longing effects of the Great Dying were. Like, actually insane. There was also some other causes that are proposed, oh my god, I cannot remember. There was like some burning of oil and coal, which we have some deposits that we can check, that we can see right now, that they were burning for so long in the Permian during the Great Dying, that it must have caused this insane. It contributed to the insane amounts of like global warming that were going on, only from the Siberian traps, which is insane. And like, I have a list here of the actual animals that got 100% extinct. It's Eurypterids, trilobites, acanthodians, and blastoids. No, not blastoids. Blastoids. And some animals that almost got wiped out are ammonites, gastropods, and brachiopods too. So they were almost wiped out, and the other guys were, this was the end for them. They only lived to see the Paleozoic. And yeah, so that's basically the Great Dying. It was probably one of the worst times to be alive, honestly. We wouldn't survive that. No way in hell. And yes, we are lucky that this thing did not just wipe out every single animal on Earth. Also, synapsids, which were thriving in the Permian, basically got low diff. They got destroyed. And archosauromorphs, actually got a chance to feel all the niches from that were left. Sorry. And like, if you've seen Walking with Monsters, that's an art here that's coming. We can see that 90% of Earth at one time after the Great Dying was 90% a single animal, Lystrosaurus. So that's a real trooper. I mean, the Great Dying is an S tier. It's one of the worst times in Earth's history, period. The Triassic-Jurassic mass extinction. So we come to now the Mesozoic, where we have the Triassic-Jurassic mass extinction. Now, this is not very well known. I know for every period there's like a slight, extinction event that, gets us into the next period, the next era. But I didn't know there was like such a mass extinction. I mean, it is not as huge as the other ones. However, it is still pretty big. Like, especially marine life was like heavily affected. Like 35% of marine life was lost during this. But I think most importantly, by this time, dinosaurs are like, they're already getting into the top dog kind of place in our ecosystem. So Basically, this event said, you know what? Just give it to the dinosaurs. Give it to the pterosaurs, which are, the kings of the sky. Give it to the crocodilomorphs, which were, crocodiles being crocodiles, surviving every single mass extinction event. And very subdued, but very, underrated, going under the radar, mammals as well. We're like, staying small, staying out of the public eye, basically, and surviving this event. So what basically happened is extensive volcanic activity. It's basically what is the most supported theory. A lot of toxic mercury was launched into the environment. Actually, this is because the Camp Central Atlantic Magmatic Province. If I'm reading it right, if it's camp, it's a Central Atlantic Magmatic Province. Yes. So when those were, getting erupted as volcanoes, it basically released a ton of toxic mercury into the environment, which, while being in the Atlantic and still being Pangea, that gets into the ocean. Yes, that's a death sentence for animals in general. Again, usually dinosaurs, crocodilomorphs, pterosaurs, and mammals were almost unaffected. Not all of them, obviously, but mostly untouched. But yeah, like a lot of other lineages, other archosauromorphs were, done. They were gone already. So yeah, there was, with the extensive volcanic eruptions, comes like global warming and stuff. So that definitely messed up the ecosystem some. So yeah, the Triassic, Jurassic one is, honestly, I know it's a mass extinction, but I don't see it as horrible as the other one. So I'm gonna say C tier, the KPG extinction. So we come to one of not the most. It is one of, but it is the most popular and most well-known mass extinction. The extinction that took out the non-avian dinosaurs and most marine reptiles in the world, and also pterosaurs too. So I think we all know the cause. It's pretty well known because it's the most rad cause of a mass extinction, and it's the Chicxulub asteroid that hit Mexico. And yes, an asteroid that big is like 15 kilometers wide. That is insane for an asteroid. And yeah, it just hit Earth, and it was GG's for everyone. Every single dinosaur, every single thing like above 15 kilograms was absolutely getting obliterated. If you're not like a borrower or something very small, it's lights out for you. So even only the impact in the surrounding area of the impact was horrible enough. What came after is way worse. If you were close to the impact, you died instantly. You're gone. No, like for 2 years after that, there was eternal darkness in the world. Like the amount of like ash in the ozone layer, like this just messed up the ozone layer like forever. And just being in eternal darkness, not be able to see the sun or anything, must have been so horrific. And the fact that there was the impact winter as well. Why is it known as impact winter? Well, because no sun means no photosynthesis for plants, which means no food for herbivores, which means they die, which means no food for carnivores, which means they die. So the whole food chain was getting absolutely destroyed. Well, as we all know, non-avian dinosaurs were getting decimated. Not a single one survived. Pterosaurs as well. They were getting destroyed too. Not really a place for them to keep going. In the seas, that's also horrible. Like with acid rains because of the huge impact winter, also terrible. Plesiosaurs, mosasaurs, phytosaur, ichthyosaurs, pliosaurs, done. You're all done. Destroyed. Ammonites too, gone, dead. The KPG is one of the biggest, one of the worst mass extinctions. They took away dinosaurs from us, yes, but the fact that it's not the worst is actually insane to me. Took out 75% of life, terrestrial life. I can't remember the marine life. I know it wasn't like as high as terrestrial, but it was still very high. But yeah, KPG extinction, one of the most popular ones, one of the most well-known ones. But yeah, another thing was lost. Mammals survived and thrived. Gave birth to the Cenozoic era, and yeah, I mean, if you think dinosaurs died, no, they didn't. Dinosaurs did not die in the KPG because birds, as you all may know, are dinosaurs, and they survived, and together with the mammals, they took over the earth. And another guys that were a little underrated that survived were crocodile morphs. Again, those guys never died. They're like, I don't know, they're pulling on creative mode. They cannot be killed. And also turtles, because turtles were alive before the Cretaceous and they survived, as you can see them today. So, I mean, it's got to be S tier, right? Yeah, it's got to be S tier. So, you might be thinking, yeah, those are the five mass extinctions the Earth has seen. However, you are wrong. The Holocene mass extinction. So we come all the way from the KPG 66 million years ago to the Holocene mass extinction, which is, yes, currently ongoing. Yes, we are living in a mass extinction at the moment. We are living through it. And guess what? We are the Avengers level threat. Yes, we are the ones causing this mass extinction. And if you can't see it, you are blind. Yes, this is a real problem that's going on right now. So, extinctions, animal extinctions, species, genera, families, extinctions, they always happen. It's just that these mass extinctions, I don't know how many times I said that word, just have a ton of them occur at the same time. But extinctions are a natural part of life, of the earth, of ecosystems. Everything has a start and an end. But we as humans are accelerating this process at an insane rate. And what I mean insane is 1,000 times the background usual extinction rate. Background extinction rate is the usual rate at what things become extinct. Well, we've accelerated the process 1,000 times. If you don't think that's alarming, there's something wrong with you, my friend. But yes, basically, the causes are population growth. We are overpopulating the earth. Overconsumption of the natural resources of Earth. And yeah, basically, what if you want to see it from an actual scary standpoint, 1 of every 8 either animal or plant species are in danger of being extinct today. One species of every 8 plant or animal is in danger of being extinct today, of going extinct, which is just scary. Scary. We are one of the worst mass extinctions that could happen to this earth, honestly. Like, what would have happened in like 20,000 years, it's happened in the last 500 years in extinction numbers or time. So basically, we have become death, basically. We are the worst mass extinction the world has ever seen. And with that, guys, I hope you learned something new today. let's learn to save our environment, because, you know, as we've discussed, mass extinctions are, even though they are part of life itself, we are accelerating the process at an alarming rate, because, you know, we as humans have to be the best and the ones at the top of everything. So hope you like this video, guys. Let me know which mass extinction is the worst. How would you change the tier list? What is your favorite mass extinction? And yeah, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe. Let me know what other topics you want me to cover. Other dinosaurs, phylogeny, everything like that. Anything we can make a tier list of, we're going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching.